Imagine waking up one morning to discover that you will never die. Not in 1,000 years, not in 1,000,000,000, not ever. You are now immortal. No illness, no aging, no accident can undo you. At first, it might feel like a gift, the ultimate dream. You could travel the world forever, learn every language, master every skill, accumulate infinite experiences. But then, something shifts. The thrill starts to dim, and the novelty wears off. You begin to see through the glittering illusion. You realize nothing is urgent anymore. Nothing is sacred, because there's always more time. And without death, there's no edge, no climax, no meaning. Alan Watts saw this clearly. He said, "The real reason why human life can be so utterly exasperating is because it is a perpetual frustration of the desire to live forever. And yet, the tragedy is not that we die. The true curse would be if we didn't." Let's ask the question that most people never dare to voice out loud. Would you really want to live forever? Be honest. Would you want to live in a world where there was no end to your story? Where every moment could be endlessly repeated, every day stretched into infinity, every experience eventually dulled by familiarity? Watts argued that the desire for immortality is rooted not in wisdom, but in fear. The fear of letting go, fear of the unknown, fear of non-existence. But here's the paradox. By clinging to immortality, we destroy the very thing that makes life beautiful, its impermanence. Imagine your favorite song. Now imagine it never ends. No resolution. Just notes dragging on endlessly. Eventually it becomes noise. Not because the song changed, but because you did. Without an ending, everything loses its shape.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
This is where Watts' forbidden wisdom shatters our Hollywood fantasies. But he didn't just say that immortality was overrated. He said it would be unbearable. Because without death, you're not really alive. You're suspended, trapped in a flat line of endless continuity. Time becomes meaningless, choices lose weight, and every achievement echoes into a void with no contrast. But Watts once said, "Try to imagine what it would be like to go to sleep and never wake up. Now try to imagine what it would be like to wake up and never go to sleep." The second is far more terrifying, because sleep, like death, is rest. It's release. It gives shape to the day. In the same way, death gives shape to life. It's the boundary that makes everything within it matter. Now think about this. If you had forever, when would you finally start living? Next year? In 1,000 years? If you could always do it later, why would you ever begin now? Death, for all its fearsome reputation, is the great motivator. It pushes us to speak the words we would otherwise hold back, to forgive, to pursue love, to take risks, to create, to savor. If you knew that this might be the last time you saw the sunset, wouldn't you look a little longer? If this might be your final conversation with someone you love, wouldn't you listen more closely? That's not morbid, that's alive, that's real. And it's the awareness of death that makes it so. But let's go deeper. What is it that makes us crave immortality in the first place? What's believed is because we've misunderstood who we are. We think we're these isolated, fragile egos trapped in fleeting bodies. So, of course, we want to preserve the self at all costs. We fear death because we think it will erase us. But Watts flipped that entirely. He said, You are something the whole universe is doing in the same way that a wave is something the whole ocean is doing. You are not separate. You are not alone. You are not a static object that ends when the heart stops. You are a process, a flow, a moment in the infinite dance of existence. And just like the wave returns to the sea, you return to the source. Not as a loss, but as a transformation. So here's the cosmic joke. We fear death because we think it's the opposite of life. But Watts said that's like fearing the silence between notes in a song. The silence is part of the music. Without it, there's no rhythm, no melody, no meaning. Life is not a solid. It's a pulse. An alternation of presence and absence, of being and non-being. And if you remove the absence, the whole pattern collapses. Imagine a painting with no edges, a story with no climax, or a game with no end. That's what forever life would be. Not a gift, a prison, not freedom, stasis, not ecstasy, ennui. You see, Watts didn't just challenge our beliefs, he dared us to rethink our deepest fears. He asked, what if the thing you're most afraid of is the very thing that gives your life its beauty? What if death is not something to defeat, but something to understand, something to befriend? He wasn't saying we should rush toward it, but he was saying we should stop running from it. Because in running, we miss the present. We miss the miracle. We cling to the fantasy of more time and forget to live the time we already have. Now pause. Really pause. Ask yourself, what would you do differently if you knew with absolute certainty that you were going to live forever? Would you still chase your dreams? Would you still try to heal your wounds? Would you still tell the people you love how much they mean to you? Or would you wait and wait and wait until the years slipped by like dust in the wind? Now flip it. What would you do differently if you knew you had only 1 year left? 1 month? 1 week? You see, death sharpens everything. It's the fire that forges meaning. Without it, we become ghosts in our own lives. Alan Watts offered us a radical alternative to the fear of death. He said, die before you die, not physically, but psychologically. Let the ego die. Let the illusion of permanence die. Let the need for control die. And in that death, you find something astonishing: peace. Not the peace of everything being okay, but the peace of not needing it to be. The peace of being part of the flow. The peace of knowing that everything you are is already part of something vast, mysterious, and eternal, not because it continues forever, but because it includes both beginning and end. So what is the real curse? Not death, but the idea that we must avoid it at all costs, that we must stretch our existence endlessly, even if it means losing the essence of what makes life worth living. The real curse is immortality without purpose, existence without contrast, time without urgency. Watts saw this with crystal clarity. He understood that meaning is not found in eternity, but in intensity, but in presence, in the willingness to live fully, knowing it won't last. And maybe that's the deepest wisdom of all, that life doesn't need to last forever to be infinite. That a single moment of true presence is worth more than 1,000 years of unconscious wandering. That the shortness of life is not a flaw, it's the very reason to love it. If we're willing to sit with the discomfort, to really listen not just with our ears, But with our being, then, Alan Watts reveals something not just strange, but utterly sacred, that death is not the end of life, but the completion of it. The punctuation that gives the entire sentence its meaning. And to remove it, to imagine a version of life that goes on forever, is to flatten the whole experience. It's like taking a painting and stretching it endlessly in every direction until all the forms dissolve. Without edges, there is no shape. Without death, there is no life. Not in the way we understand it. Not in the way we feel it. Watts often reminded us that the fear of death is really the fear of disintegration of the self, of the ego, of everything we think we are. But what if death isn't disintegration at all? What if it's integration the moment we dissolve back into the totality we came from? He said, just as the wake doesn't drive the ship, the past doesn't drive the present. And so it is with the self. We are not defined by the illusion of continuity. We are defined by presence, by immediacy. The self that fears death is the same self that clings to the future. But the present moment, the one that actually exists, has no fear. It simply is. And in that isness, death is not a monster. It's a mirror, reflecting back the urgency of now. Let's get brutally honest. If you're watching this, you've likely entertained the fantasy of forever. Not in the cartoonish way, but in that subtle, persistent hope that maybe, just maybe, science or spirituality or some mysterious force could grant you more time. And maybe it could. But Watts would ask you, more time to do what exactly? To keep running from the present moment. To stack up more experiences you never fully feel. To repeat the same patterns until they become unbearable. He would say, stop. Look. Listen. Not to escape death, but to understand it. Because in understanding death, you understand life. You understand that its value is not in duration, but in depth. Now imagine this. You're standing on the edge of a cliff, overlooking a vast canyon. The sun is setting. The air is still. In that moment, you are completely alive. Not because you've conquered time, but because you've surrendered to it. You know this moment won't last, and that's exactly why it matters. You are not thinking about tomorrow. You are not worried about forever. You are here, and it's enough. That's what Watts wanted us to feel every day. Not just at the edge of cliffs, but in the mundane, in the ordinary. Because when you stop needing life to last forever, you start seeing it everywhere, in a laugh, in a touch, in the way the wind moves through trees. You see, the curse of forever life isn't just boredom. It's disconnection. When life becomes endless, it becomes abstract. But there's no reason to pause, no reason to reflect, no reason to love fiercely, because there's always tomorrow. But when you know the clock is ticking, you love harder, you forgive faster, you cherish more. And Watts believed that this is the secret most people miss. That the beauty of life isn't in its permanence, it's in its fragility. It's the fact that it can be broken that makes it sacred. Like a glass vessel shimmering in the light, we hold it carefully, not because it will last, but because it won't. Watts also dismantled a core myth in Western culture, the idea that heaven true happiness must be eternal to be real. But what if that's backwards? What if the very reason bliss is because it ends? Think of laughter. If you laughed forever, it would become torture. Think of music. If a single chord held on forever, it would lose all meaning. Watts said that the rhythm of life is its essence birth and death, inhale and exhale, light and shadow. To deny death is to deny half the dance. And if you only dance half the steps, you're not dancing at all. Now let's flip the script. What if, instead of fearing death, we used it? What if we allowed the awareness of it to sculpt our priorities, sharpen our focus, and break the spell of procrastination? What if we stopped trying to escape the end and started asking, what can I do with the time I've been given? Not in a frantic, anxious way, but in a wise, grounded, grateful way. Watts didn't want you to rush through life. He wanted you to wake up into it. He wanted you to see that every moment is a miracle, not because it's permanent, but because it's not. Let's go cosmic for a second. What if death is not destruction, but recycling? What if it's the way the universe renews itself, clears the canvas, and begins again? You weren't here 100 years ago. You won't be here 100 years from now. And that's not a problem. That's the cycle. That's the pattern. That's the art. Watts said, life and death are not two opposed forces. They are simply two ways of looking at the same energy. You are not a visitor. You are the dance itself. And the dance is beautiful because it ends. So I want to leave you with this question, not to answer quickly, but to sit with. If you could live forever, would you still choose to live today with the same urgency, but the same love, the same attention? Or would you wait? And if the answer is wait, then maybe death isn't the enemy. Maybe it's the teacher you've been ignoring. The one that whispers not of fear, but of focus. Not of despair, but of presence. Not of endings, but of now. Alan Watts wasn't afraid of death. He didn't worship it. But he understood it, and in understanding it, he found life. Not in theories, not in beliefs, but in the raw, present moment intensity of being. And maybe that's the ultimate twist, that by embracing the end, we begin again. Not in another life, but in this one, right now. End for Bay. Thank you for being here. If this video stirred something in you, don't run from it. Let it sit. Let it transform you. Share it with someone you love. And remember, the curse isn't that life ends. The curse would be if it didn't. Subscribe for more deep journeys. And until next time, live like it matters. Because it does. And what if I told you that you, yes, the one watching this, are not who you think you are? That the person you call me, the one with a name, a job, a past and a future, is just the surface layer of something infinitely deeper. That beneath your identity, beneath your thoughts, even beneath your body, there's something vast and ancient and eternal, playing the game of being you. This isn't science fiction. This isn't fantasy. This is the cosmic insight that Alan Watts called the most dangerous and liberating idea in philosophy, that you are the universe in disguise. Let's start with the illusion, the idea that you are a separate self cut off from the world, isolated inside your skin, riding around in a body like a driver in a car. That's how most of us live. We say, I'm over here, and that tree is over there. Oh, that person is them, and this is me. But Alan Watts called this a hallucination. He said, the real you is not a puppet that life pushes around. The real you is the whole universe experiencing itself in a particular place and time. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. This idea isn't just poetic, it's practical. Because what happens when you believe you're separate? You become afraid. You feel small. You feel threatened by change, loss, death. But if you are the universe, then nothing can truly be taken from you because everything is you. Watts often used the analogy of a dream. When you dream, every character, every tree, every sky, every sound is actually you. You created it. You are it. Now flip that into waking life. What if this is the same thing, just on a different level? What if the world around you isn't separate from you, but simply a different expression of the same energy? Now pause. Really sit with this. If you are the universe pretending to be you, then what are you pretending for? What is the point of the game? Watts said that's exactly what life is, a game of hide and seek. The one, the eternal, the infinite, hides itself in forms, in identities, in lives. It forgets itself for the joy of remembering. It becomes you so it can experience the thrill of discovery, the drama of love and loss, the miracle of awakening. Because what's the point of being everything, always, forever? At some point, even God would get bored. So it invented you. This changes everything. It means that your struggles are not failures, they're scenes in a play. It means that your fears are not flaws, they're part of a larger unfolding. It means that your life, even in its most painful moments, is not meaningless. It's the universe exploring itself, learning itself, loving itself, through the lens of your eyes. And when you stop identifying with the mask, when you realize you're the actor behind the role, you don't disappear. You wake up. You become both the character and the author. You get to play instead of just survive. But this awakening isn't an escape from life, it's a deeper dive into it. Watts didn't want you to become detached, floating on some spiritual cloud. He wanted you to show up more fully, to laugh harder, to cry deeper, to love without holding back. Because when you know the game is temporary, when you know it's all one playing many, you stop taking it so seriously and start taking it more sincerely. You live not because you're trying to win, but because living itself is the point. Let's ask a hard question. If you are the universe, what are you afraid of? Death, loss, change. But you've died 1,000 times. You've been stars that exploded. You've been oceans that dried up. You've been ancient forests, now turned to dust. And here you are again, not as a memory, but as presence. Is this moment. Watts reminded us that you didn't come into the world. You came out of it. You are not a stranger here. You belong not because you earned it, but because you are it. This isn't just philosophy, it's a revolution of perception. Because when you see others not as separate, but as you in another form, compassion becomes instinctive. Forgiveness becomes natural. Love stops being a transaction and becomes recognition. Ah, there you are, another reflection of me. That's why Watts said, when you see that in the face of a stranger, you see your own face, then you wake up. So what does this mean for your everyday life? It means that presence is sacred, that every moment is the universe blooming, that brushing your teeth is sacred, and that walking your dog is sacred, that suffering is sacred not because it feels good, but because it's real. It's you. And when you stop trying to escape reality, when you stop trying to fix it all with thought, you begin to touch it. And in touching it, you remember you are not in life. Life is in you. Watts didn't want you to believe this. He wanted you to see it, to taste it, to become it. And the only way to do that is to drop the story, drop the chase, drop the mask, and just be here, now. Because the universe isn't something out there. It's what's looking through your eyes. It's what's hearing these words. It's what's asking right now, could this really be true? Yes and no. Because the moment you try to grasp it with thought, it slips away. But if you feel it not as a concept, but as a knowing, then you'll never be the same. And you'll never need to be. Because you'll realize there was never anything missing. Never anything broken. Just the one dancing as the many. Just the universe pretending to be you.